What is something your current or past employer would not want the world to know about their company? While working at Gregg, customers were told we'd recycle their old TVs for them. Really, we just threw them in the dumpster. Can't speak for Gregg Corporation as a whole, but at my store this was definitely the case. McAllister's famous iced tea is really just Lipton with a shit ton of sugar. They even have a trademark for the famous iced tea. Their website says, "We can't give you the recipe, that's our secret." The secret's out. Lipton plus sugar equals trademarked famous iced tea. I was a social worker at an institution for the severely disabled and we had a nonverbal, mentally retarded patient turn up pregnant. Tests were done, establishing paternity. It turned out not only had she been raped by an employee, impregnating her, she also tested positive for syphilis, which the baby's father did not have. So, basically, a severely disabled woman was raped a minimum of twice by 2 different people while in our care. Ducking shameful. This is really common. Most of the disabled women I've worked with react very poorly to men and being bathed, especially the ones that can't talk. Some of them have stories in their charts that just, ducking duck hell. The duck is wrong with people. I worked at a beverage plant years ago that made Arizona iced tea, Tropicana, Nantucket nectars, etc. There was one drink that we produced and the label said, made with spring water, and it was. Each 600-gallon batch that we made had exactly 1 gallon of spring water poured into the tank. I can taste it. The spring water. It's good. I work for a government agency. 2 of the people routinely sign in for 8-hour days when they probably work 5 or 6 at most. Just your usual waste of taxpayer money. Says the guy who is on Reddit 8 hours a day. Just read this while working at a government agency. Upvote for you. And one for you, my good man and compatriot. We incorrectly installed the seat safety bracket mounts in over 750,000 cars, and there will be no recall. Take the number of vehicles in the field, A, multiply by the probable rate of failure, B, multiply by the average out of court settlement, C. A times B times C equals X if X is less than the cost of recall. We don't do 1.
Which car company do you work for?
A major one.
I worked at a Denny's. One of my supervisor's children was conceived in the walk-in cooler. All of my children were conceived in a walk-in freezer. My ex-wife. I worked at a jewelry repair shop where all repairs were done with 10k gold instead of matching the care out of the ring. I guess I'll have to bring in all my 5k gold. I'll be rich. Mew hoo ha 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 ha. Go for the chandelier. It's priceless. Worked at a restaurant, the Elephant Bar in Columbus, Ohio, in case anyone is wondering, and the managers made us save uneaten food from customers' plates and serve to other customers. If your side of carrots wasn't touched, it would go back into the warmer and get reserved. Same with dinner rolls and anything that could be passed off as new. Didn't happen at the Elephant Bar I worked at in Colorado Springs, but our manager routinely had furious husbands come in to fight him for banging their wives. I prefer this over the food repulsor. Sounds like that guy was more of a wife recycler. And you've reported this, of course? Since I live in Columbus, Ohio, I reported just now. Yeah, Better Business Bureau, it's me again. You'll never guess what I read on Reddit. I want these guys shut down immediately. I work in a shipping company warehouse. Fragile stickers don't do anything for your package until it's in the courier's hands. Maybe. Your shipped items are going to get beat the duck up. Wrap it 5x in bubble wrap. If you think you're being too cautious, you're not. Warehouse workers don't care. Your packages are going to be loaded into a hauling truck, stacked in no specific order, slammed around while transported, then throwing around by workers sorting them. I'm sure this is already common knowledge. Just a friendly reminder before the holiday season comes full swing. As someone who aids in making MRI coils, you bastards are the reason we put shock indicators on our outgoing products now. Broken indicators mean compensation. These things aren't cheap either. My buddy worked at Purolita. His advice, pack anything you ship to survive a fall from 7 feet. I worked for Blockbuster. Those collection notices you would get in the mail? Yeah, those were fake. We didn't have a collections agency. They were just meant to scare you and didn't hurt your credit. Source, my store manager. I was a BB store manager. We had a collections agency, but BB only got a small portion of the money recovered. The rest went to the agency. It was basically a way to fuck over an arsehole customer. If someone owed under $50, it generally wasn't worth sending them to collections, unless they were a twat and you wanted to put a ducking to them. At Walmart, all of the peons, cashiers, deli workers, janitors, electronics associates, are given as many hours possible without it being full-time so that they don't get benefits, and the managers get bonuses for keeping labor at a minimum. I'm not sure what part of working at Walmart is shitty is not common knowledge. I shop at Walmart because the employees are dead inside so I don't have to make small talk. Bank of America. Tellers are all about sales. It is highly unlikely that any of the products they advise you to sign up for are good for your financial situation. Many times they will actually be detrimental, but the position is a sales position, not just a friendly face to help you with transactions. I've slowly learned this about most banks. Left for local credit unions, haven't looked back. I was forced to dump over 35 jugs, 1 gallon each, of muriatic acid into a hole in the ground they, a retail store that is not Walmart, made me dig, and refused any form of eye breathing protection. I was overwhelmed by the fumes and nearly reprimanded for not finishing the job. I'm sorry, I didn't see being a fucking pussy listed as one of your skills on your resume. Not Walmart manager. My best friend used to work construction and one day he was on a site right behind a restaurant. One day he sees a guy come out the back with a ton of trash to throw in the dumpster and a huge vat of BBQ sauce soup or something. He dumps it in the dumpster and as he finishes a manager comes out and yells at him for wasting it. Kid says it expired. The manager forces the kid to scoop it all back out of the dumpster so they could sell it. My buddy and his friend stood there in shock as they watched this happen, and sure enough he scooped it out and took it back inside. This was in Memphis, TN, for your information. What restaurant is this I love in Memphis? I can feel the panic behind those words. It's the lack of any punctuation between this and I. I worked at an IVF lab, fertility center, in a major city in the United States. Our center was on the medium-large end, doing about 2,000 IVF cycles per year. They wouldn't want the public to know this. Exactly what everyone fears will happen, happened. More than once. An embryo belonging to one patient was transferred to a completely different patient's uterus. You hear about this in the news occasionally, but for every case that is published, there are a few that don't go public, and just quietly settle with the patient. You should label them. I used to work at Claire's and the Icing, same company. We got about 15 minutes of training before we were allowed to pierce kids' ears. If people bled on the ear piercing guns, we would simply wipe them off with a tissue, and use them again on the next person. We were also never taught anything about cross-contamination and blood-borne pathogens during training. I would never take my kids to get their ears pierced at the mall. Choose a reputable body pisser and take your kids there. Some people are afraid of taking their kids to body pissers because they look sketchier than the pretty mall down the street, but body pissers will use an autoclave and most of them, if they are any good, are trained to properly deal with blood and bodily fluids. The person at the mall, no matter how much experience they say they have, does not have the proper tools to deal with blood. About 99% of our piercings did not draw blood, but the 1% that do are definitely not dealt with well. I tried my best when I worked there, but there's only so much you can do when there is no equipment on hand to properly sterilize anything. While working at Staples as an easy tech, we would scan a computer with Malwarebytes, not with the shutty Norton we were given by corporate, like we were supposed to. If a cookie or something worse would pop up, we would charge them $169.99 to have someone in Canada remove it for them. Even if it was a cookie, I would have to tell the customer that it was a virus, and their system's integrity was in danger. An old lady came dropped off her computer, Marianne. She knew me by name and only trusted me. She had me put new memory in, which I charged her an extra $34, company policy, and she asked me to do a virus scan. I found a cookie from a stupid game site that her grandson liked to play on. I removed the cookie, marked the computer done, and then called her to tell her that the computer was ready to be picked up. I didn't tell her she had a bad cookie, or that there were any issues, only that there were no viruses. She came and picked it up an hour before I got there the next day. That day I was called in the office and they fired me. Yep, right there. I preformed a free service apparently. What got me caught was that I didn't delete the Malwarebytes log of the cookie and my supervisor found it. Apparently he scanned the computer earlier before me and found that cookie and wanted to make her pay for a virus removal. I wouldn't be surprised if he put it on there himself. When he saw that computer was ready to be picked up, and there was no notes about a virus, he checked the Malwarebytes log. Duck me for having a conscience. Now I am on month 3 and I cannot even get a job at Walmart because I was terminated from Staples.